Cramping up. Drinking my electrolytes, trying to get out of this cramping. What it do, flight crew? So we're not the flight crew. Ladies and gentlemen, I love to be able to talk to you and see how you guys are doing. I'm out here just relaxing because I needed a break. Needed me a break. So I'm in the poo. Drinks. Hey, everybody drinks by the pool. Everybody drinks by the poo. All right, I'm going to sit on the couch a little bit bigger here. There we go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We got lights in the shot and everything. What's this one? Whoa, brother. All right, guys. We need to have a good conversation today. Yesterday was a heavier but good relieving day for me. A lot of you guys, I think, enjoyed that conversation. So today I turn on an even better background where I'd rather be is sitting out here having this conversation. Here's where we're at, and we're just gonna keep going. I have other videos and stuff for us, obviously, to continue to talk about, but this one really hit me today. I've been really looking into, I'm working on these different projects, and I'm going back into the past, and I'm looking at things. I'm working through therapy. There's a lot of reflection that happens in that time. And during all this reflection, I feel like the more I see who I was, the more I realize what a drastic 180 of a person I am. And I want to talk about how it feels when your part of you is dying, but you're still you, and you're kind of going through that transition, and then what it's like to get out of it. So I'm going to go back to, let's say 18. 18, I felt confused and broken, but I put a lot of my time into trying to be an athlete. I wanted to be a basketball player, or, I wanted to be in the NBA or the NFL, probably like every other kid who's ever played sports. And it was my dream. It was what I thought was my calling, and I thought that I would play basketball and then I would help people and go around and speak. So those were the two things I wanted to do my whole life. And during that time, though, I also, like I've told you guys, went on an LDS mission. I wrote about this in my book. And when I came back early, very early, by the way, I don't think I was out for more than 8 weeks. That is completely, it's a 2-year mission. So being out for 8 weeks is not going to get you the welcome homes. You're not getting the big party, and you've basically, you've basically failed. I would say you failed. You feel like you failed, whether people make you feel that way or not. And I feel like there's a lot of shame in that when you come home. So that was where I had already struggled with my mental health. I already struggled with worthiness. I already had a fear mentality. I was scared of everything. And, there was this part of me that just really used to say, I hope you guys know I'm going to get really vulnerable on this one. So if you get uncomfortable, I get it. There's a part of me that used to say, you weren't built to be here, like on earth. Like, you just were not built for this. You're not strong enough. You're too weak. You're too emotional. You're too scared. Every other, sad way you could possibly say it. I was really down on myself as a person. So I've always struggled with that, self-confidence, self-love, and just truly caring and loving yourself. And it's so important. It's a process, but I didn't love myself. I was never taught to love myself. And yeah, so that was my childhood. Then when I went on my mission and came back, I thought I failed the rest of destiny that I had. So I thought if there were anything good in my life, I just ruined it. I came home. I didn't do the 2 years. It's over. That's it. And the book is closed on me. And this is how dramatic I was, but also it was very real to me. I thought, okay, so you failed that. You failed God. You're not going to marry the right person. You didn't help the people you were supposed to help. That was my number one, actually, if I'm being honest with you. I literally felt like I failed the people I was supposed to preach the gospel to. That in itself was that was damning. That hurt me to think that I gave up on people. And so, I came home and I remember I've told you guys this story, but I was in Hawaii and I was just freaking laying on the floor crying, just broken. I felt misunderstood. I felt like I couldn't talk to God, couldn't pray. I took my missionary tag off, those tags that go right here that say your name. Mine said Elder Ryan. And when I got home, I grabbed it and I chucked it. My mom went and picked it up and saved it, but it was kind of a F all of this. I tried to do the one thing that I never thought I could do. Like I told you guys, I was always interested in the military. I talked to 3 different branches, took my ASVAB twice for 2 different branches. No, I did 3 ASVABs. Yeah, so I did my ASVAB for 3 different branches. I wanted to be in the Special Forces, and I also wanted to play sports. So I thought that those things would go all together. I thought I'd play sports like at college and then be in the military, right? And I wanted to serve the country. And so that was kind of where my mind was before a mission. And then my other dream was to play basketball. So those were my 3 focuses. And then when you're young and you're LDS, you have a mentality that is you got to get married and start procreating. I just want to hit on this specific thing. We talk about this all the time because a lot of stuff we're talking about is LDS. There's no rush. You need to do things on the Lord's timing when it comes to stuff like that. The culture should not push you to get married. You should not get married so you can have kids. Marriage, in my opinion, is a huge commitment, and it's a choice you make every day. And that commitment is not gonna last if it's for any other reason that you want to be there and that you love that person, that you want to keep committing. And that is I think it's one of the hardest things you can do is be married and truly commit yourself to someone else and constantly choose them every day. Not that you don't love them, but if you don't have a foundation of love and you're getting married for religious reasons or to have babies, I don't think that's a recipe for winning, in my opinion. So I think fall in love first. Let's be honest. And when you fall in love, you have to be willing to become a unit. So that I thought I ruined that though. So in my mind, okay, since I failed God, I failed my responsibilities that I promised God before I came here to earth, because I was LDS at the time. So in some capacity, I believed that there was a pre-mortal existence, and in that pre-mortal existence, I promised to go on a mission, and then I ruined it. So it's horrible, right? And yeah, it's no longer, I'm not going to get married to the right woman. I'm not going to have the babies I was supposed to have because I'm not going to marry the right woman. I failed God, I failed people, and I was embarrassed, and I felt the word broken doesn't cover that. Everything in the book, man. Self-pity, anger, sadness, shame, guilt. I was demoralized. Let's put it that way. When I came home, I had the sweetest branch dude who had sent me out. So you talk to like the highest ranking person. You talk to the highest ranking person before you leave on a mission, and that person's like your stake president usually, and he's the last one that you talk to before you leave. So when I left, me and him are cool. We're friends. Everything's all good. And then when I came home, it's a 180. I'm sitting in his office. They have to like separate you from being a missionary. There's like a special way that they call it setting you apart to be a missionary. So when you go, you have this blessing that sets you apart as a missionary. When you come home, you have to be unset apart. And so they had to do that. And obviously I'm already ashamed. And we're sitting in his office and he's sitting across from me, and I just saw him like 8 weeks ago. I don't know, however long ago it was. And he's like, yeah, a lot of guys come home and start, smoking on the beach, and they just don't go to work, and they start drinking, and they just go down this path, and they start hooking up with girls. I'm like, what the hell, bro? Like, I came home because I had anxiety out of my mind. I couldn't function. Like, I've never felt that way before. And that only played into this idea that I was unworthy. That idea that I wasn't supposed to be on a mission. You're an unworthy person. That's why you're having so much anxiety and fear and doubts. I wasn't really scared of being away from my family. I felt like I was unworthy to be God's servant because I was not a worthy person to do that. And so I'm telling you all of this because I want to really hit on something here. I see a lot of religious shame in people's lives. I'm seeing it in Jeanette McCurdy's book. I'm seeing it with Jody Hildebrandt. I'm seeing it with how Jody Hildebrandt hit on other people. I'm seeing, even if you really look at Chad and Lori's cult, they did the same thing. They used religion and that real root that you grew up with, and that shame and certain things you can touch on those buttons. They use those things. And so religion has a way of creating open doors for people to press these certain buttons to make you feel a certain way. So here's where I'm going to really get at. And I really need you to have the foundation because it's important. When I came home, like I said, I basically gave up and I moved out almost within a few months, if that. Moved back to St. George, Utah, of all places, with my best friend, and I started, practicing basketball, got a job at the gym, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my dream. And I just got so hyper focused on that. I said, this is what I want to do. My whole life, I'd felt out of control. My whole life had been decided and dictated by others. My whole life had been someone else dominating what happens. I'm going to do something for what I want to do. I'm going to create stability. And I didn't realize I was doing that. But in that time, I learned that I've always craved a stability. And we're going to hit on that theme later in this video. But when I got there, I remember not wanting to go to church. And I'd always grown up with guilt to go to church. And my mom made it a big deal. I just want you at sacrament meeting. I just want you there in the presence. I just want to be a family. I just want to feel like we're here. And so when I moved out, she'd obviously ask me a lot. And then when I went to college, she was still trying to kind of guilt me into going to church even on my own. I did not want to go to church. And it was simply right then at that time, I already had my own feelings. This is now I'm 20 to 21 years old. And there's obviously a lot that I'm skipping over here, but I wasn't going to church on my own because of the shame and because of what I was carrying with me. And I can't tell you, we actually did a whole video about shame because it is such a real thing. It will affect the lens of which you view your life every single day. You will not function correctly. You will not feel loved. You will not feel any of the things you're supposed to. You're not going to function correctly. It's like literally scales over your eyes or through the lens. It's like putting glasses on and looking through those lenses when it comes to shame. These things are very powerful, just like fear, worries, doubts, anxiety, all that stuff. So, I'm on my own and I'm already dealing with my own, just carrying this backpack all the time. And it's a backpack that I'd added rocks to over every year because I was such a negative self-talker. And I still have to get myself out of that sometimes. I'm just like, bro, you got to chill. Like, some really good advice that I did get was, how would you talk to your best friend if they were going through the same thing as you? You would not really say the stuff you say to yourself to your best friend, because I don't know if you guys would be best friends after that. At least for me, I say some crazy stuff to myself. So, the whole point is I'm building this backpack. And I'm putting in these parts of life, and I'm carrying trauma, and I'm carrying everything that's ever happened in my past because I'm unhealed. I'm carrying shame. I'm carrying really deep stuff from when I was a kid, and I'm carrying abandonment, and I'm carrying abuse, and I have this load that just gets bigger. And so the more that you feel that way, the more that you start to figure out ways to survive that, whether that's mentally escaping, disassociation, or people turn to other things, substances, muses, whatever the case may be. I feel like what happens is people start to not function anymore. You don't have anything left. You're just a product of the past. And I was watching the Michael Jordan documentary. And in this documentary, Michael Jordan as we all know, and I'm gonna be honest, after watching that, I think LeBron is one of the. I think him and LeBron are very close, but I give the edge to Michael. Just being honest, I never said that. I used to always say LeBron's the GOAT, but I think Michael's the GOAT. Anyway, one thing that they attribute to Michael Jordan's success, and we're talking about somebody who's as successful at their craft as anyone has ever been in their life. And when you study the psychology of why Michael Jordan was successful, one thing that was said about him and one thing that was made known is that Michael Jordan was in the moment and he was present and he just didn't. And one of the most impactful things I heard in this documentary is the guy said, Michael said, why would I think about a shot I haven't taken? Meaning he doesn't feel this pressure to perform. He didn't, and he's the most, at that time, every single person on the planet knew who Michael was. He was expected to do the spectacular, expected to perform every day, expected to win a championship, expected to do it no matter what, no matter the cost. The psychological pieces there are real. I bring this up for a reason. Being present and not worrying about your past or your future is literally going to change your life. I heard that and thought, I want nothing more than to keep feeling that way. Can you imagine the burdenlessness? If that's even a freaking word. You guys know I like effing around with words. By the way, conversate's a word. Don't at me. Not having the burden of the past, and I'm not talking about like not thinking about it. I'm talking about you genuinely are not being affected in your future because your past is not holding you back anymore and your past is not projecting into your future. That's freedom. That's true freedom. Yesterday we hit on some of the same themes, like this stuff has controlled my life. And we have these moments in our lives as people where we can't get past these things, and that trauma taints the waters, and that water. So think of this. I just made this up in my head, by the way, but I like it. Imagine the trauma. Your life's like a river, and when that trauma happens, it's like dumping oil or tainting the water, dumping something in the water, and for the rest of the time that stream goes down, you're carrying that with the flow. So it's tainting the water down and down and down and down. The more trauma you go through, the more you taint the water. Well, at some point, you're not going to recognize the water. It's no longer flowing clean water. And that's exactly how it feels. You have these moments of trauma and they change you. And then you become something else. You become this product of your trauma and your future now. The anxiety, right? The definition of anxiety is thinking about the future. And you start worrying and you start projecting the past to the future and you have no peace. There's no peace in that. I have spent the better part of the last almost 3 years with my therapist trying to unload a life's worth of stuff. And there's just nothing you can do about that. And I was, I never see my progress. I'm just not one of those people. I don't see myself like I see others. I can tell someone else how great they're doing. I pick up on things like that, but I have really struggled to see myself. And it's because I wasn't given an identity. I've had to learn who I am from scratch. I didn't have a parent who taught me how to do, and I just didn't have parents that taught me how to do things. Like I wasn't taught how to handle life. I wasn't taught how to be financially responsible. I wasn't taught how emotionally regulate. I wasn't taught how I'm supposed to be a man. What does a man do? What is the definition of that? How do I lead a family? How do I lead myself? Right? And it's just like, man, it's heavy because the part of me that I realized after all this digging that is gone is the part of me that was nothing but a self-sabotaging sulker. And that part of me was holding me down. When I told you guys that I was sitting in my apartment, and I remember clear as day, I was praying and I felt like I just heard as clear as day, you're living in a graveyard. And I literally just had that visual. Like, I'm just sitting in the graveyard with my family. I'm curled up and I'm just here. And they're not even in their graves. I believe they're in heaven. So I'm just there. I'm alive, but I'm there and they're not. And so I thought, this is one of those moments where it's black and white for me. It's stay here and give up and stop, or it's get up and try to make something in your life happen. You know? But I still am always hard on myself. It's hard not to be. It's hard to not be your biggest critic. And what I'm trying to do now is truly see myself for who I am. I've never had an identity. I just started working on that. Truly knowing myself to where someone couldn't criticize me and I think, oh yeah, that might be true. It's like, well, no, I mean, I know that's not true. I can take criticism, but not an untrue statement. It's not going to rock me to my core. And, you know, I bring all of this to our attention because the first part is the death part. The death part for me was the part of me that was grieving, but then also holding me down by never getting out of that place. And I want to dive into that really, really hard. So at that time, I'm sad and I'm broken, and it's 21, 22 maybe, probably 21. And I'm just not a functional person. I'm just not functioning. I just saw no good ever coming. I didn't know how I was ever going to get a life started after this. And we had lived in Rexburg for a short amount of time and then left because it wasn't for us. And, you know, I just was carrying that burden everywhere I went. And it just was heavy and it was a thick cloud and it took over my identity. That's all I was. And I felt like I am, to the world, going to look and feel like a wounded animal on the side of the road that everyone sees and looks at, but keeps driving. Because they know why you're down. They know who you are. They know why you're hurt. And they see you and they feel for you. But that's it, right? It's just like, oh my gosh. And it's almost a spectacle to be hurt. Now, this is how I felt back in the day. I don't feel that way now because we have a beautiful community and I see the love and the humanity in the world. So just so you guys know that. But I carried that part of me. And then when I realized, hey, you're living in the graveyard, that part of me started to die itself because it was a living part of me that had went on, you know, TikTok has an algorithm, and this is when I was using TikTok, and it if you watch sad stuff or watch sad movies or listen to sad music, your algorithm goes that way. And so in a sense, instead of it being a season, you're just there. You're there, you're stuck in sadness, and everything you do revolves around brokenness, and you keep saying this stuff. And I said to my therapist, we were having this conversation, and I said, it's like, for some reason, I got so angry I don't know when this was, the last time we saw a Twilight New Moon, and Bella's like, I'm just a broken person. I'm never going to work right. I'm like, shut up. Stop saying that. Don't repeat that. That's not true. And then I'm like realizing, bro, you gotta say the same thing. You can't, whatever you're repeating about yourself, the things that you're constantly doing and putting over yourself, it does matter. Like, words do have that kind of ability. And to know who you are is to be unbothered by people telling you who they think you are. Everyone has a version of you in their head, a character that they've built based off of your interactions, based off of who you are to that person. They see you in that light. And so they have an identity for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are with you like you 24/7, 365. So some people can not know truly your identity. And so back to what I was saying though, real quick, I had to deal with the grief, the loss of me, because the version of me that had been surviving, who had been protecting myself, who had been trying to get through the day, started to die off. And I felt like I was carrying around a limping part of myself emotionally. And, you know, I feel like I rebuilt everything about myself, but I had to completely die to do that. And, you know, I love being able to be as positive as possible with our community and tell you guys how important it is to be high on yourself, in a sense of like, don't give up on yourself. But without me dying, and I sound so stupid, but please just stick with me here. It's the truth. That part of me really had to like die off. And without that literal feeling of like you're like something is so wrong with you, and you're just like shedding off this person that you were and everything you've ever known. This goes way past just emotionally. This is the family that I had, the relationships that I had, the future that I had planned, the future that I thought was just given because I had a family, my kids' futures, the futures of everybody else affected by this. It's all gone. That's it. It was just one day it was here and the next day it was gone off the planet Earth. How do you respond to that? You know, what do you do with that? And so I was lost, and the weird thing is I wasn't even mad at God. I didn't blame God. I blamed Lori. I blamed Chad. I blamed Alex. I blamed that group. But then I had to deal with myself, and that was the hardest part, and it still is the hardest part. Dealing with yourself is just so rough, you know? And you have to, at some point, it becomes a thing like I need to work on these things. I want to be better. You know, I really do still have to stop myself from feeling shame and dipping back into that place, you know? I got to check myself, because I want to show up for my family, for my kids. Even if I'm not showing up for myself, I want to show up for them, and that gives me a purpose. But it's not easy. I guess what I want to say is that, you know, you see these videos, you see these inspirational videos, you see these things like go do your push-ups and go for a run, or these, you know, just like quick, I don't know, dopamine hits that just make the process seem lighter than it is. I just want to tell you there's no exact right reason or wrong way to go, but if you're healing and you're working through it, there's no timeline on that. Everything's not going to be perfect as long as you're moving, is what I want to say. That part of me that's gone is something that I still have to keep reminding myself that I am a different person. I don't recognize that person. When I see videos, when I see anything about myself back then, I'm like, how in the world? It's like, it's night and day for me. I'm not the same person. And I think that that's really important to recognize for me personally. I'm trying to read your chat. Monica says, deep down, you must know after going through life-altering times, you must try to hold on to hope. We also must know we are not alone. The windshield was made to be bigger than the rearview mirror, so keep driving. I love that. Thank you, Monica. McSpunky, hype, love that. It's just really important for us as a community to keep each other up. You know, there's so much hardship in this world and in your life. There's so many things that are going on that you can't stop, and you can't help everything that happens to you. But how you respond matters. How you deal with yourself matters. That's all that matters. It's all you have. It's truly all you have real control over in your life is yourself and how you respond to things. And this is a big reminder of myself. It's all I have is that. And I learned that. It was so out of control to the point where it felt like nothing I did again was up to me. You know, I never try to sound like a victim when it comes to this stuff, but, you know, I didn't ask to be in this position. I didn't really necessarily want to be put in there in the spotlight. You know, I never wanted that. I only wanted to be effective when I thought the kids were missing. And that was it. And that's all that mattered. And, you know, I was just too nice to people. I just had too much faith that people did not want to screw you over. I had too much kindness and just an assumption that people care. And so I opened the door to a lot of other people that I shouldn't have. And I trusted people I shouldn't have. And your heart has to learn those things. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of pain that goes with that. But at some point, I want to be the person that can help the next person who does that. You know, stop allowing everything. It's okay to have a boundary. It's okay to work on yourself. It's okay to know that you deserve to have a future. It's okay to not, it's better than to not hate yourself. Stop hating yourself. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to push you. It's not going to make you more competitive. It's not going to make you better at your job. It's going to make you do things that a happier, more full person would not do. If you were full and happy, and this is what I want you to think, and kind of an exercise we can do, simply just think, what would I do if I were literally completely void of all trauma? What would I look like right now, just sitting here? And you know what my first answer is? Peace. I don't even know what it feels like. I just don't. I don't know what peace really truly feels like for a long period of time. I've never had it. It's never been peaceful in my life. And I'm not trying to sound like a victim, I'm just telling you the truth. My life growing up was not peaceful by any means. I thought I was going to have, you know, a good life after I left and became my own adult, because peace was not something I had. You know, my dream was to buy a house for my family and stay there and let them have one place to come and be a stable parent, you know, bring our grandkids there and set life up. Like that was my dream, just to have peace and to have stability. Stability is like something I never ever had. You know, people see that, you know, I grew up, at least with Charles too, but we had, you know, decent money. Our family made good money. And I think that gets misinterpreted for a good life. And, you know, unfortunately it happens a lot. There's a lot of people who have, you know, their parents make good money and they think that covers all the stuff. And really, that doesn't do anything. You can go to Disneyland as much as you want. You can get as many things as you want. You can buy as many clothes as you want. You can buy all the diamonds in the world. It's not gonna fix your spirit. It's not gonna fix your soul. So I think that's where this all comes to, is I want to say that I do see the change that I've had, and I'm grateful for that. And I bring that to you because I always think it's insane when I know the person that I was couldn't sit here and tell you that, you know, like I could never see myself that way. And I finally just like, wow, there's been a lot of change. And that makes me want to say to you, there's hope for you. Because trust me, man, negative self-talker, as bad as it comes, down on myself. You guys know I've been very open about this. I've had a lot of you know, thoughts of self-harm. I've almost done it multiple different times in my life because I didn't think there was a way out. You know, growing up, I was told a lot that there was no point in anything, that the world's going to end or your parents going to die. Like I just had doom, just doom all the time. It's like something's coming, something's going to explode. There's going to be a grenade and I'm not going to know when it's going to go off, but it's going to blow. And I am waiting for my life to crumble. I'm waiting for something to change my life for the worst. And it turns out that was Lori. She was that person. She literally lived her life that way. And then she became that. And she became this unbelievable villain who did the most unbelievable, to this day. We've covered the cases. I'll never understand it. I'll never be able to wrap my brain around what happened, the psychological side of that. So, you know, but I don't blame Lori for everything. I really don't. Because she can't control what I do now. She can't stop me from living a better life. I can't use her as an excuse or crutch. The girls are laughing really loud. I can't use... I think to myself, I'm just going to be super real with this. Ever since July, when I had the TIA, and I've had it multiple times, not as bad as the first one, I've thought to myself, I don't know how long I have. For, you know, in that time, you're thinking you don't know how long you have. It's the first time I've ever truly questioned that. And now it's like I have this uncontrollable thing that you have to find a way to control, where it's, I don't know, I live on the edge all the time. I already was, and now it's like with your own body, you feel like your body's betraying you, or it's going to. And so it brings a lot of anxiety, and you can't sleep, you know, peacefully. You just don't feel that way. You know, just I think Ava had a popsicle because she's screaming the way she screams when she has a popsicle, or she had Sprite, but she didn't have Sprite. It really comes down to the reality of you have to see yourself in the light of how far you've come. You know, I used to think that if I look back and think, oh, I've come so far, it's almost like I don't know, not a flex, but like selfish. I don't know why I thought that. Because it's not wrong. It's not wrong to see yourself for who you truly are and see that you've overcome something, and that you're not a perfect person, that you know you're not a perfect person, that there's nothing about your life that's perfect. Because no one is I'm not trying to be perfect. I never will be. So you can throw that out the window. I'm never going to be perfect. And so I'm learning to love myself for the first time in my life. This goes back to not being parented. This goes back to me holding myself in a cage over everything I've ever done wrong, and, you know, the shame cage and the brokenness, and telling myself I'm broken. What kind of life is that? What kind of quality of life is that? I would never, ever tell you guys that, because I truly believe in my heart that you're not. But when it comes to myself, I'll struggle with those things and tell myself those things, and I have to stop myself from doing that. It's a literal like chore to stop yourself. Hey, stop this train of thought. This is not going anywhere. And that's the voice I think I finally figured out. And I want to put you on some game here, some mental game here. I have this ability for the first time in my life to sometimes say, let's really think about that. So I'll hear myself say something. Hey, you know, you're fat and you have body odor. Okay. By the way, it's from School of Rock. Okay. Chill. He says, you're fat and you have body odor. It's from a movie. Chill. But if I say something negative to myself, there's sometimes I can catch myself and say, oh shoot, that's not productive. Where's that going? And it's like, it is truly reparenting yourself. Because if I hear my kids talking bad about themselves, the first thing I'm going to do is correct the fact that that's not true. You know? That's not true. You're not bad. You're not a horrible person. You made a mistake, and that's it. It's about identity. So I'm learning that I have to have my own identity. The part of me that comes and shows up here is the part of me that's trying to make sure that what happened in my life and what we've talked about on this channel has a positive impact. I don't want to just talk, like there's no point in talking about it without reality being a part of it. I don't want to sensationalize it. It's been sensationalized. It's been in the media. You've seen the Netflix documentaries. You've seen every documentary. It's not about that. Knowing what's happening and knowing the reality, and then grounding that reality, and then turning this into for good for others, that's it. You know, that's all that matters. Because if it doesn't turn into something good, then it happened almost for absolutely nothing. And yes, it did happen for nothing. But if it can't be used for good, for somehow, right? Some lessons, whatever I've learned that I can regurgitate or talk about or anything of that nature. If I can't do that, then it's just suffering for suffering's sake. So this whole channel, this whole community is built on that. This whole channel was created to just talk about real life. Because I don't see it enough. I don't know why people are different on camera and then different in person. I just don't get it. I don't get the performance. I don't get that stuff. I just don't. I don't like that. I just want there to be the human side. And I just don't hear it enough, right? Like, even like I was looking at some of these athletes that talk about their mental health, and I'm like, okay, you know, they say I'm struggling. I'm not going to try to get personal and say, well, what are you struggling with? But they don't really, a lot of people just don't get into very much detail or talk about what they went through and then the solution they found, or I don't know, I just don't hear that stuff. It just kind of is like, hey, you're struggling with something. That's about it. I don't know. So I really want this community to continue to know that you are more powerful than anything you've ever imagined in your life. There's so much power in your mind that I can't explain it to you. Imagine if you felt peaceful, if you felt safe, if you felt loved, you would be a different person. You would. You would act different. You'd walk around different. Your whole life would 180. It's just insane. It's insane to think that this is inside of us. And at some point we have to take responsibility for ourselves and say, hey, I'm not gonna let you, this is me, this is the sass that you guys see a lot. I'm not gonna let Lori make me think that I'm unlovable or abandoned. Because you know what? I finally realized there's a layer of my life with abandonment, right? Of course there is. Lori abandoned me regardless. She abandoned everything we've ever known. And, you know, there's so many layers of hurt that you can't get to all of that right off the bat. Right off the bat, it's all about Tylee and JJ and Charles. That's it. Obviously, and Tammy. But that's all that's like forefront. Then you don't even know how to feel. You're just angry. And then you're hurt. And then you just start slowly unpacking that. And you're like, holy crap, this is really, really, really freaking multi-layered. This is not simple. So really it comes down to, I'm not going to let her dictate the rest of my life. And watching her and talking about her does not mean she's dictating what I'm doing now. It means that I personally wanted to know what happened through court, because that's where they pull evidence. There's no her telling me. My original thought was, hey, let's go have a conversation. You tell me what happened. Well, that's the result that I got. You know, a literal lie from hell about Tylee and about JJ. And that broke that final straw with me and Lori, that I ever had hope of her being saved, that I was the person that was supposed to save her. That son, that inner child that was begging for his mom, learned a lesson. And I accepted that lesson. I accepted that. But I grieved after that interview. Before I ever posted it, I thought about posting it. I prayed about posting it because I didn't want to sensationalize her. I didn't want her to have a platform to say anything about Tylee like that. And I thought, this is going to help somebody somewhere. I don't know how. I just know it. So I talked to multiple people. I'm like, hey, I did this interview with Lori. This is what she said, but this is what I want to come out of this. And I asked a lot of people. I was like, just tell me the truth. Like, you know, bad idea, good idea. And, you know, it comes down to simply, I had to grieve for my own self. I had to grieve. I finally grieved her for me, what I lost personally. And then I grieved the family. I've grieved every single person individually. I grieved the future that would have happened, everything that was taken away, just a lot. But then I said, I'm going to try to show up for myself. That's hard, man. That's hard. To show up for yourself, to love yourself, to forgive yourself, to give yourself grace. I don't know if there's something you can do mentally that's harder than that. I'm just being honest. Of course, going through things is really hard. I'm talking about really changing, your mentality, changing your wiring of your brain. Till said I had to grieve the mom that I always wanted. Yeah, exactly. You grieve the character you created, the fun mom, the Disneyland mom, the mom that loved you, the mom that showed up for you. And then I start talking to my therapist and I go, I never felt that way though. Like I didn't have genuine safety. I didn't feel safe ever. I didn't know if we were going to wake up and pack our bags and move. I didn't know if my mom was going to be dead in her room when I woke up because she said she was going to die. I didn't know if she was going to die while we were on a road trip. I didn't know if the world was going to end. I didn't know if there was going to be nuclear bombs dropped. I didn't know if the rapture was going to happen. Constant state of fear. Constant state of worry and doubt. And then you realize at some point your life really truly is in your hands. You can't change the past. You can't do anything about it. Nothing you can do. Imagine if you were so loved and you literally thought it's okay. Everything's okay with what's happened. It's not okay, but it's okay. In a sense of you can't do anything. You can't go back. Can't change this. Can't change that. Can't fix this. And then you felt loved and then you felt like, let's walk through that. Let's get you through this. You matter and you're worth putting time into. I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to abandon you. Imagine that. Different life. Different freaking life than what we've all lived. And you can do that for yourself. Don't abandon yourself. We're constantly changing, evolving, growing, learning. I always tell myself I would drag people through if I could. I'll put you on the tourniquet and pull you by your legs if I had to. But I just don't do it for myself. I don't pull my weight enough. And it just sucks. It's not fair. It's not fair to never get what you need, right? And I grew up that way. Grew up without my needs met. My simple needs were met. And I'm grateful for that. I can say that. My needs of having a home, having food, those were met. My emotional needs, my regulatory needs, the conversations I needed, this emotional safety just did not exist. It didn't. So I had to deal with that. But while I was going through that process, and while I still am, it feels like I'm still dying in different ways. Does that make sense? There's parts of me are dying still. It's like being a tree and parts of their branch are dying. It just doesn't make any sense. It hurts. I'm still having to kill parts of me that are not serving me. Right? Oh, Tanya, you're so sweet. She says, Colby, I can't tell you how proud of you. I can't tell you how proud I am of you and your ability to feel your feelings. If more men did that, our world would be a better place. Thank you for sharing your vulnerability with all of us. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. It makes me sad that men... It makes me sad that men are not taught to be this way. They're just not allowed to feel their feelings. They're not allowed to do this. And I'm just going to be super blunt and honest. I did the research because I was there. The suicide rates for men are tremendously higher. And it's because there's just no, it's not manly. It's not masculine to have feelings, but they do. No matter how good someone is at acting cold, they have feelings in some capacity. Unless they're a psychopath, which even then they have feelings, right? In some capacity. I don't know if there's ever been a human being that has absolutely no emotions, and like no matter what. I don't think that's ever existed. There's something there, no matter what that feeling is. I think most psychopaths actually want to feel something, which is why they do the stuff they do. But I see friends of mine, people I've talked to, people I'm close to, myself, I just feel hopeless. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman. Like, being hopeless really gets dark very quickly. It will take you to that place. It will take you to that path. And you'll be ready to do something that you can't change. You know, I was there. I was so ready to do it back in I don't know what year it was, but I was like, I don't know if I've ever been closer. And I was ready, and I did a few things. This is gonna get really heavy really fast, so just so you know, I did a few things. I wrote down a list in order and notes of people that it would affect if I did it. Obviously, it's my family first, and then everybody else that I knew. And then I thought, what if this doesn't end the pain? Right? What's on the other side of this? What's waiting if I do this? And that was my lowest. You know? And there was just a part of me that wanted to do it, because I said I can't take it anymore. I think that's what everybody feels. You see blackness. There's no future. There's no hope. You can't meet the expectations. You don't feel the love you deserve. Like, it's crazy. It leads to people taking their lives. There's no going back. No changing that. I knew it was selfish. But there's a part of you that doesn't care. Because the last thing you're going to try to feel is bad about wanting to be out of pain at that point. Just more shame. I remember thinking, if I do this, I'm going to hurt my kids. They were young too. So I was like, well, and this is the rationale. I was like, well, if I do it, they're not going to remember me. So it's not going to be that effective, right? They're just going to have a story. And so, you know, I did it. I did the whole list. I did everything. And I'm telling you the story because I know there's other people who struggle with this. And I was watching everything on YouTube. Do you want to know why? I never even told you guys this, but one of the main reasons that we specifically do a YouTube channel is that I was going on YouTube during all these times, searching. And I wanted nothing more than to hear someone talking about something, to not feel so alone. And at that time I was trying to find these sermons, and I was just listening to podcasts, and it was it was YouTube. I had YouTube on all the time, and I was just trying so hard to find something. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I just kept looking for somebody or something or some understanding. And so YouTube has, that is the main reason we do this. Like, that is one of the grounding factors of YouTube itself, is the fact that it's here, and it's a platform that people can get on. And this is why we talk about this here on this platform, just so you guys are aware. And then, not that long after I didn't do it, we had Carter. You know, it's like, if I would have done that, Carter wouldn't even be here. You know, it's just like crazy to think about the actions, because you don't see that. You don't see that. You don't care. You don't see the future when you're ready to do it. You feel nothing but beyond overwhelmed pain. Your body is on absolutely below battery, blinking, is shutting down, and you have just nothing left to give anybody on the planet, including yourself. You've given up on yourself. So the whole point of this channel is to continue to bring hope to you. What I don't want you to do is have false hope. I don't want you to think that, and that you're going to hate that I say this, is this is not to make you feel scared of it or anything. That your healing is a process, and it might be hard. It might be easier for some. But you have to be willing to dig into your wounds. It's kind of like what I always say is like, it's almost like re-breaking a bone. If you break your bone and then you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, hey, we got to re-break it so it actually heals. That's what it feels like. It's just bad. It just feels like bad news. Like, oh yeah, well, not really trying to break my bone again. Men specifically really struggle here. And I was listening. As you guys know, I really wanted to touch on these themes with DJ Shipley, because he talks about this as a Navy SEAL veteran who was way past the trauma levels and just so ready to take his own life. He was right there. He was in his truck with his firearm. It was happening, you know? And it's the sadness of the world. It's the sadness of misunderstood feelings, not feeling loved, not being seen, not being enough. That's what gets you there. Even circumstances hurting you, it puts you in a place where you don't see anything left. There's no hope. When you lose that hope, it's over. That's it. That hope is gone. And, you know, that's the part of me that I'm trying to overcome myself. You know? And I feel like I have, in a lot of regards. A part of me used to just be ready to give up all the time. I was so flat. I had nothing. What are you trying to ask me to give you? No, I have nothing to give you. How could you ask me to give more? How can I show up for anybody? How can I can't show up for me. I can't show up. I can barely do anything. I'm just this voided, I'm just like a shell of a human being right at this point. There's nothing left in me. I'm just alive, but I'm not alive. I'm living. I'm just not alive. And, you know, that's when it's important to find the authentic connection that you have to yourself, who you are, what you enjoy. Have you ever just spent time with yourself? It's scary. Like, turn off all your TV stuff, turn off external voices, books, podcasts, all of it. Spend some time with yourself, thinking or journaling or working through how you really feel, searching for those feelings, searching for the words to express those feelings. You'll learn a lot about yourself. I guess my other thing was, you know, it makes me think, I wish that this was talked about more and that more people mainstream these things, because Imagine if the people who we are talking about did this. Imagine if they healed themselves. Or at least tried, kept trying. It's a process. And they didn't even want to. They didn't even, Lori and Chad didn't even think about that. That was not in their idea. Jody was abusing people, hurting people. She would have dealt with that pain that she talked about. If Jody would have just stopped and dealt with herself and her man issues and her religious hurt and her feelings of how she felt when she was growing up, that wouldn't have happened. Happy people don't do that. And what I mean by happy is not dopamine happy. We're not talking about what you see on TV. I think we have a very weird conception like, oh yeah, people who have money are happy, right? NBA players are happy. The actors and actresses in Hollywood are happy. Like, bro, actually, no, most of the time they're not at all. They're completely unfulfilled because they have an expectation they have to meet all the time. It's not about money. It's not about this. This is great. But I love to be sitting right here, sitting in that poo. Come on, man. I'd love that. But that's not the definition of happiness. You know what happiness is to me? Inner peace. Inner peace. The kind of peace that doesn't leave easily. The kind of peace in your own soul. The kind of peace that doesn't get rocked. It's stable. The kind of peace that makes you be you. The real you. Not the hurt version of you. Not the one that lashes out. Not the one that's hiding away or secluding yourself or saying you're better off alone. The real version of you. Just imagine that. Imagine having that. That's what I want. Truly. That's the whole point of working on yourself, is to get to that place of you don't have to be perfect. It's not about perfect worthiness, perfect actions, perfect follow through. I think it's just truly effort. And that you know that you're not transactionally getting love from God or your spouse or your kids or anything. It's not about what you do for them to make them love you. That's not love. That's not unconditional love. It can be a form of love, but unconditional love is the kind that it doesn't matter. I love you for who you are, not what you do. That's hard to come by. That's the love you want. That's the love I think people search for their whole lives. I know I'm ranting on, but I'm just pouring my heart out right now because sometimes I am shocked that I am here. Shocked. I was there. I was ready to take my own life. I thought I was going to die multiple different times in my life. I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to you guys about mental health. I was the 180 of that. I was completely mentally unhealthy and felt zero hope, zero future, all of it. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's really important for you guys to know the future of your life is not always in everybody else's hands. You can find a place within yourself to create the future that you want. You know? That's all that matters. I'm not gonna lie, I'd like to get in that pool, and I'd like to sit in the corner. Here, I'm gonna do it real quick. I'm gonna go sit in the corner in that pool and look out at the ocean here. All right. Yeah, I can't turn all the way around. It's pretty out there though. Smells good. But yeah. You guys know I care about you, care about your mental health. I don't, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough in that realm or talking more about it. I feel like it's a responsibility. Not in a bad way, not in a pressure way. It's more about the fact that that's what makes those experiences even matter, is helping the next person. Without that, again, it's just pain. It's just a lesson I learned, which is, to me, not helpful. I learned that lesson. I'd like to help the next person learn the same lesson. But I'm not here to talk just about me. I give you the personal side so you understand and apply it to you. This also applies to all of us. Yeah, I'm sorry you're having a hard time mentally. You know, I try to tell you guys this all the time. I don't want there to be a trauma comparison. I don't want you to think, well, you've been through hell and nothing of what I've been through is compared to you. I want you to know that your trauma is valid. There's really not a scale of trauma. I mean, yeah, from a very, very just outer view, we can say this is worse than this, or it could be worse. Like, there's that. In reality, trauma is trauma. It affects everybody differently. And you know what? It's not a scale. No comparison. No comparing this to that. The truth is, if you're going through things, that's what we're here for. It's not about who's got it worse. We're not playing that game. Another good thing, important thing, is we're not trauma bonding. There's a difference between bonding and trauma bonding unhealthily. We can talk about our trauma, but I don't want you and I to create an unhealthy bond where we start always making each other worse by having the same conversations that constantly make our mental health worse. It should be the opposite. It should be uplifting. That's the point. Trauma bonding, I think, makes you worse. And you're just cyclically stuck, like the TikTok thing, right? Wow, that was a loud chug. You just stay there, and you're stuck forever in this place of we can't get better, but we're feeding each other's trauma. I just want to say that because you deserve to get out of the cycle. And how long can you stay there before you're deteriorated to the point of self-harm? Right? Like, how long can you go? How long can you last in your trauma? You know, don't be Bella. Don't be Bella telling Jacob, I'm just never going to work right, and I'm just like a truck. I'm never going to run right. It's not true when it comes down to it. You change. Parts of you, in my opinion, the way I put it is, parts of you die. They stop existing. And that can be good parts or bad parts. Sometimes you lose your interest in your hobbies or the things you used to love, and you have to rediscover yourself, and that's okay too. Everyone's in different places and seasons. Don't turn your seasons into your permanent residence. Don't turn your place of pain into your home. Your place of pain should not be like that. Bella sucked. Bella sucked. She's just a bad example. And the thing is, it's easy to feel that way when you're hurt. Some of the stuff has a place. There's a place where, you know, you use pain for good. What I mean by that is you take your pain and you apply it to your energy, okay? You take something and you make it into a positive. So you let and allow certain things to help you fuel towards something. That's positive, though. That's positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is giving someone hopelessness or feeling hopelessness yourself. It really truly is about hopeful or not hopeful. I don't know what the other word for hopeful is. Hopelessness. You're either hopeful or hopelessness. And what cuts the main median there is that once you get to hopeful, That has to be applied deeply, because that's going to keep you going. And it's really hard to see yourself, and it's really hard to judge yourself. And you really shouldn't. I think it's good to have somebody else who can help you see you for who you are, and not, someone healthy, someone who can truly explain to you who you are, so you can build an image of yourself that's true and correct. And there's nothing wrong with recognizing the bad parts of yourself, things you want to change, things you want to work on, things that don't serve you anymore, things that were made out of your trauma or responses from trauma or coping mechanisms that are unhealthy. The best thing to do is to just not shame yourself into something. To not make yourself, what does shaming do for anybody? Like, it doesn't change the person, right? Making someone feel horrible and hopelessness is not going to make them want to work harder. I think an invitation into a different life or a different way is going to help them. And I'm telling you that because you can apply this to yourself. This is not just a lesson in general. This is something we can do for ourselves. You have an inner self, an inner critic, and you have to learn how to talk to yourself correctly. It doesn't matter how old or young we are. It doesn't matter what stage of life we're in. That is always going to be a big deal. Exactly. You are not your trauma. You are not your past. You are not your future. You're not your mistakes. You're not even your accomplishments. You are a person who has emotions, who has complex emotions, thoughts. You have pieces and parts of you, and there's a lot of things that there's parts of you that are authentic and there's non-authentic pieces. This is something that my therapist is teaching me. So I did not come up with the authentic self. This is her teaching me this. But that's where you have to get to, is like, who am I? I think that's a question that everybody asks themselves. Everybody wants to know that answer. And then lastly, I think everybody really needs to spend some time with themselves and get to know who you are. What are your interests? If you pull all of this mental negativity off of you, who would you be? What would that look like? That to me is more of a, I'm going to find true, deep happiness and satisfaction in my life if I can see myself the right way, correctly. Not in a, you're the best guy that ever lived, or you're a god or a goddess. Let's stop there. Slow it down. We're not going to act like we're better than we are. It's simply, you don't think that you're the worst person that's ever walked the planet Earth, or you hate yourself, or you criticize your looks, you criticize yourself for any reason. It's not going to get you anywhere to hurt yourself more. Anyway, just wanted to leave those thoughts with you. I want you guys to always know how important you are. I tell you this all the time, but our community has been more than amazing. I am unbelievably grateful for our community. I think that there are so much good that we can do. And if we keep having these conversations, hopefully it reaches the right people. That's all that matters. It reaches the person that it needs to reach. And, hopefully we can have more conversations about this. One thing I'd love to do is have, some people on the podcast to talk about these specific things. Be amazing. And, just be able to really dive into this part, because I definitely don't want people not knowing solutions. It's not an easy solution. Solution is you have to start really working on yourself, digging through yourself, and identifying things and identifying emotions, identifying trauma. And the way you work through those things is different methods. So I'm not going to recommend anything or say anything, because I'm not a therapist or anything like that. But that's the first key things, to really truly sit with those pieces of your life, really get to know yourself and the trauma, the hurts, the pains, the things that you're doing that you might even notice. So sometimes you need a third person to say, hey, you are doing that. Really important. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I truly do love you. And mods, thank you. Welcome to all of our new members. Welcome to the community. You're already a part of it, but we do some different things for our members as well. I want to shout out to all of the Warriors, Chiefs, and Motha fricken ones. And if you don't know, we do have a Patreon as well. We're going to be doing some videos over there that we can't really do here on YouTube. So we'll be doing that this week on Friday. So all of my Patrons know that, I think, because I posted over there. But that's just for everybody else. So more than anything, just know that you are worth being here today. And this is not a mistake that you're here. And just know that you are loved. And this community loves you. And you have a place here. So, love you guys, man. See you guys very soon. And really do appreciate you.